it does feel hard to believe the kinds of things that you're saying the government is now about.
We got curveballs everywhere. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, we've got Vasi Capellos interviewing Tim Hodgson, Mark Carney's energy minister, fresh back from India. And he's saying, well, it's time for a pipeline. We also got more aftermath of Jamil Javani going down to meet with J.D. Vance. It seems he did talk with Donald Trump as well. We got some liberals melting down over this. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we've got the conservatives supporting Mark Carney on his grocery GST handout. And what does Mark Carney and the liberals do in return here to get rid of all the food packaging taxes and all that stuff? They vote against it. Of course they do. Liberals vote against conservative motion calling on the government to cut hidden food costs and boost competition in the grocery sector. You know, I just looked at the price of green peas, and if for anyone new around here, I keep tracking the price of food based off of frozen green peas. They used to be $1 for a bag, like 350 something grams, something like that. And now at Walmart, the cheapest place I can find it, it is $3 for a bag of green peas. Now, if you go to one of the other grocery stores that's way more expensive, like Save On Foods, you're paying more like $4 or $5 for a bag of green peas. A lot of them should be fired. Liberals hate Canada. Yep. Moving ahead, we've got this. Carney scraps Trudeau anti-Semitism and Islamophobia SARS. So we've got leftists breaking down over this. I guess they're trying to weave this into one position. Mark Carney's making a bunch of moves here. He's bringing in there's that floor crosser from the Ontario NDP, the deputy leader NDP party. So that'll bring in some NDP, but then doing this will push away some of the NDP. So it's interesting how this, is going to pan out. We're going to jump right into this interview with Tim Hodgson because this is pretty wild what he's come back with here from India.
I know you're coming back fresh from a couple of pretty significant trips, and I wanted to start off on one of them, the most recent one to India. When you were there, I listened to a press conference that you gave where you said that your impression was India would welcome the opportunity to buy more Canadian oil and gas. It appears like they've recently agreed through a deal with the United States to stop importing Russian oil. Is there more opportunity for Canadian crude to supplant that supply?
Well, what I heard loud and clear when I was in India is, and maybe I'll start by saying something I learned while I was over there. India has the largest refinery industry in the world. They also have the largest refineries in the world. Today, they are buying Canadian crude in rather small quantities off the West Coast through the TMX pipeline, but they're buying larger amounts of Canadian crude off the Gulf Coast. It would clearly be cheaper for them to buy more off of our West Coast. And I can tell you that the Indian refiners that I spoke to really like our product, and they would like to buy more.
How much additional export capacity do you believe might be necessary to see the full promise of what you kind of heard there actually realized?
India is quite hungry for more energy. I heard loud and clear they would take as much additional crude as we could supply.
You hear that? They will take as much crude oil as we can ship them. We should be building not 1, 2, but 3 more pipelines. 1 across to the east, 2 over to the west coast, add another line to Trans Mountain. The liberals were wrong. They were dead wrong on this for years. Throw these guys out of office. So what I fear they're going to do here is that it seems like they're going to be pushing forward a pipeline. They're going to attach net zero to it, low carbon. You're going to hear here throughout this interview, he brings up India's green tech. They're trying to steal all the best conservative stuff, but then push through their net zero agenda, exactly as I've been saying for the past year and a half. So you mentioned Trans Mountain Pipeline. Let's look at this one here. So this comes from Edmonton, goes down through the Rockies. David Eby is willing to open this up and add another line here, expand this. Just like a month or two ago, he said, oh, this thing has tons of capacity. We don't need any of this. No pipelines to the West Coast. And once again, he's lying. All these guys have been lying. Here's the capacity chart. This light blue is domestic light. The dark blue at the top here is domestic heavy. So they've been adding this as soon as they expanded the pipeline. They just recently expanded this, opened this up. They've been building it for years now. They twinned the line and opened it up just last year. So we're starting to make a bunch of money with this just starting last year. We need to add another line to this, and we need one to Prince Rupert. Let's get this show on the road. At the bottom there, you can see the orange is their refined petroleum products. And the yellow line here on the top, you can see is capacity. And the capacity here, it's almost full. It gives you a percentage daily, but I mean, we can see here it's 85, 76, 83. And then recently, look at this, 88, 95% capacity. As I said a year ago, talking about this David Eby running his mouth like an idiot for the past 6 months, and this pipeline is 95% full now. We haven't even started shovels in the ground on another pipeline. These guys are utter failures. And here we've got Tim Hodgson coming back from India. Yeah, they'll buy as much oil as we can sell them, but we don't have pipelines to sell them that oil.
Does that, in principle, reasonably lead to an argument for an additional pipeline? And I'm removing from this the debate about when the proponent comes forward and all that kind of stuff. Just in principle, based on your experience in both India and China, I think I can ask, like, does that in principle support the idea of additional export capacity through another pipeline?
Does she need to tiptoe around this question? Just say, are you going to be approving a pipeline because Canada's crumbling? You said you're going to diversify the exports. Just say it as it is. She doesn't need to tiptoe around this guy.
So what I heard from many companies in India is they would like to buy more of our conventional oil. They would like to buy more of our natural gas, our LNG. They would like to buy more of our LPG, which they use for clean cooking. There are 380 million households in India that use LPG. This is a new...
LPG is liquefied petroleum gas, which is usually a mix of propane or butane under high pressure to turn it into a liquid. And he mentioned LNG. We won't get into this in this episode. I'll do another episode digging into this, but we've got BC First Nation withdraws support for liquefied gas export facility. That's right. First Nations are trying to block this. The question is, how many people are blocking? Is it one corrupt chief? Is it the whole band? I don't think so. The people there want this kind of stuff because they want jobs. But really, either you're with Canada or you're against Canada, and that's how it should be treated. Not to mention the Port of Prince Rupert is owned by the government, not by First Nations. We're going to segue here. We'll go back to Tim Hodgson in a second, but I mean, this is all blowing up because we could easily diversify our exports to India and China. They both want to buy our oil, and we could be selling our oil to them for much higher price than we are to America. Diversifying gives us more power negotiating against Donald Trump. We've got Jamil Javani just went down to Washington, and well, he met with JD Vance. It sounds like he tag teamed along with him, and it sounds like he also talked to Trump. He came up with this post. So after his meetings here, he posted this: productive meetings today with the White House and State Department. The president asked me to pass along a message. Tell the Canadians I love them. I'll have much more to say later. More meetings with senators, GM, and others this week. As in, he met with Donald Trump. It seems like he's getting more progress than Carney has in a full year. I wonder why that is. Maybe Carney doesn't want to get a deal. There's a lot of moving parts here because Tim Hodgson, are they going to be proving this pipeline now as long as it's low carbon, a net zero pipeline? And Pierre Poilievre was asked about this situation with Jamil Javani.
What advice he gave Mr. Javani before his trip to Washington?
And who is he meeting there?
So the advice I've given all of our MPs is you need to fight for jobs in your community. Mr. Javani's community has been hit with a massive job loss, 1,200 jobs in the auto sector. And he's going to fight for those auto workers, as all of our MPs have been doing. Mr. Carney had promised that he would get us a deal by last July. My message to him today is Conservatives are here to work with the Prime Minister and with the government to knock down these unjust tariffs and fight for our workers, fight for their jobs, and fight for our economic independence.
That's the right message there. It's interesting if you watch what's going on CBC, Peanut Head David Cochrane trying to push out this narrative that Jamil Javani doesn't have Poilievre's approval. He's going around Poilievre's back. I mean, give me a break. Yeah, listen to his advice there. I'm guessing Steve Outhouse and Pierre and all of them sat down and said, okay, let's do this. This is the way we can interact with Trump without Pierre going down there and then getting painted as Maple Trump or whatever, all those slogans they throw out. As Mark Nixon pointing out here, no orange man bad nonsense. They can't do that against Jamil Javani. This is what adult diplomacy looks like. So that's why Carney's so pissed off, because there's nothing he can do about it. If he says, don't go meet with Trump because we don't want to get a deal, like, he can't say that. So he's kind of screwed. But then we've got this going on, which just is another monkey wrench getting thrown in.
Export for Canada. We've just started exporting it. We have tremendous opportunity to grow that. So the answer is yes, there is certainly opportunity to sell more, but there's opportunity to sell many products, including critical minerals, including metallurgical coal, including potash, including uranium. They are very keen to do more business with Canada.
I ask more specifically about pipeline, and I know you'll be well familiar with this because the other products that you list are not nearly as politically divisive here within Canada. And so I'll maybe rephrase the question. So you say, yes, that there is an appetite for all of that. Does that in principle mean that the federal government sees an appetite for an additional pipeline?
So assuming we build in an environmentally responsible way, and we do it with the support of First Nations.
There it is. So it's got to have all this nonsense attached to it. First Nations will block it. I mean, we know how this goes. I just showed you they're blocking the LNG. Cut off the reconciliation payments. Enough is enough. Every Canadian should get treated equal. Corrupt chiefs shouldn't be getting massive handouts. You know, Canada spends, I'm dyslexic. This account here is taking every single government file, putting it in a system that's easy to quickly search. This is not good for the government. And recently they did this huge deep dive into First Nations, and they've categorized everything here. They says we made a tool to make it easy for Canadians to search. We've scraped over 10,000 financial statements, schedules, remuneration, First Nation disclosed. So I went through some of those. I broke down some of those remuneration, their financials. They basically put it all in here for all the different bands. Boston Bar, First Nation. You can just look at it all. You click on it, boom, it pops it up. I'll give you one example here. So if we just look at any one of these, just pick one. We've got Bear River First Nation, and you can pick the year. I believe that's what this says at the top. Yeah, so like the newest year is on the right side here. And so we'll go Barren Lands, and you can click on the R, and this gives you remuneration and expenses. And this gives you a breakdown here of their money. If you click on FS, you got a breakdown of their financials, and it breaks it all nicely down here. So you can see revenues, 13.4 million, other 7.9 million. It's a little cutoff for you guys there. They're 5.1 million Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada. And then expenditures, 8.5 million. Community infrastructure, 2.1 million. It's all broken down. All the chiefs with corrupt funny business, you're in trouble.
I believe there is demand for additional natural gas, LPG, and conventional oil. There's also demand for critical minerals. There's also demand for potash. There's also an incredible opportunity to exchange capabilities with respect to renewables. What the Chinese and the Indian are doing in the way of baseload renewables is quite amazing. And we've got some real opportunities to take some of the technology and bring it here to develop our resources. At the same time, they look at many of our clean tech companies, particularly in the area of CCUS, and see a real opportunity.
CCUS. I'm assuming he means carbon capture, utilization, and storage. CCUS, he doesn't want to put out that carbon word anymore because we're on to his dirty scheme here. If they convert all this oil over to low carbon oil, they'll end up putting a carbon score on it. There'll be a penalty on it. If you buy gas, there'll be a carbon score. You'll pay an extra $1 a liter or whatever it is to pay for your dirty carbon, even though China's the one building a new coal-fired power plant every week. Then you'll have carbon scores on all the food. Oh, it's a E-level carbon. Don't eat that Bermondsey porter cake. That'll cost you some extra carbon. You'd have to pay extra to offset your carbon. That's what they're driving our economy to. This is a nonsense system. I don't buy it that India is interested in this, but who knows? Maybe their leaders are corrupt over there too, and they want to get in on this.
Particularly in the area of CCUS, and see a real opportunity to take that technology there. So there's many opportunities for us to work together.
And like I said, I take your point on all of that. That's the stuff that's the end half of what you said is the stuff that's very politically palatable, that's easy to find support across the country. The former subject, that of a pipeline, is less so. And I wondered if you could also comment, Minister, on sort of providing investors, potential proponents, let's say, with the level of assuredness that might be required given all that's going on. And I'll provide you with a few examples that I know you're well aware of, but so that our listeners are as well. We've got opposition from the Premier of British Columbia, perhaps, the most punctuated opposition politically. But we also have a number of other factors, including Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith saying that, if this doesn't go ahead, it's going to be hugely nationally divisive, a whole bunch of stuff, basically, politically. How would you respond to that?
So the Prime Minister and the premiers have all been together as recently as last week. We all agree that we need to work together to find ways to grow our economy.
All you need to do is get rid of all those stupid laws. Danielle Smith already made a list for these guys. This is not rocket science. Get rid of all that garbage, open it up. Companies will come back and start building. They know what to do. These guys are running a scheme here to get rich.
And do it in a way that is respectful for the environment, and do it in partnership with First Nations.
They keep bringing First Nations into this because they get a cut of it. And when they get First Nations on board, then they get the veto power. It's like they get control of First Nations just by cutting them in on it. Remember this crap show from Coastal coastal First Nations, not a First Nations group. This is just an activist group that put up a picture of First Nations. And what do we have underneath our land? Carbon credits. Under economy, carbon credits. They're in on it with them. That's why he keeps mentioning it. This gives them more power to push through their grift.
There's lots of work to do. That's why you've got a team in the federal government, a team in the Alberta government, a team in the British Columbia government working hard to execute against the MOU, the work streams in the MOU. It's going to take lots of work, but this is a great country. And if we all work together, we will find positive paths forward. Do
you think investors can be assured that your government says what it means? I recently interviewed Gregor Robertson, the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, who used to be very opposed to pipeline development in the form of TMX. And I read just part of the MOU to him about an exemption of the tanker ban and asked him if he was supportive of the exact language in the MOU. I asked him probably 4 times, and he could not unequivocally say, yes, he was. I think it's understandable. I know you're a newer minister. You weren't in the last government, but given the record of the last government, the rhetorical way that they framed this issue, it does feel hard to believe the kinds of things that you're saying the government is now about, given particularly the presence of some of those ministers still around, those people still around the cabinet table. Does your government mean what it says? Like, will you act on that?
What our government is committed to is if we build in an environmentally responsible way and we do it in partnership with First Nations.
There it is. It's all about this because there's money to be made and they want to be making that money.
We will have the support, the social license to build. I want to come back to, where we are in the world right now. We are, as the Prime Minister said in Davos, we are at a rupture. We are at a time where the trading system that we prospered under for many, many years is gone. And we need to rebuild our economy in the face of a trading partner who is now charging for access to that market. That's a very challenging world that the Prime Minister described in Davos. But he did provide a path forward, a solution. That path forward is to build new trading links and new trading partners, which requires new infrastructure. And if we do that, Canada will be stronger than ever. So we have a challenge in front of us, but we have an opportunity.
An opportunity to boost Mark Carney's carried interest and turn him into a billionaire. We got it. You notice his language there, the rupture, all that stuff. I think they brought someone in to help them tell a story, because if you look throughout history, what is the most powerful ways of communicating with people? It's stories. There's cave paintings from thousands of years ago that are still on walls today. You go down to Arizona, they're down there all over the place. You can just see cave paintings, people writing books, manuscripts. Even today, you've got Netflix, you've got all these different types of media. It's stories. Stories the most compelling way to communicate to an audience, and you can throw woke stuff in there and sway public interest and opinion. And that's what they've done here. I think they brought in a storyteller to teach them how to tell this story of there's a rupture and everything is scary, but we've got this new world order. We can build something new. It's a whole narrative that they're painting here. They probably have a whole narrative storytelling department at the Liberal Party. These guys have no shame.
And I think Canadians will rise to that opportunity.
I want to also ask, just to conclude, about another trading partner, another visit that you were on, the trip to China. And in particular, your approach moving forward to Chinese investment or lack thereof, potentially, in the oil patch. I remember years ago covering the CNOOC and Nexen deal, the rules that came into place about Chinese state-owned companies and how much they could own. They could not basically have a majority stake, only under exceptional circumstances. You've signed an MOU kind of, in general terms, talking about more two-way back and forth investment. Can I ask you bluntly, Minister, will your government's, red line be the same thing?
We will calibrate our engagement with China. We are open to additional investment in the energy sector by China. We will use the same tests we always use. Is it a net benefit for Canada?
This is a little different, though, than just, any kind of calibration. This is a country that 7 months ago the Prime Minister identified as the biggest security risk to Canada. I'm asking specifically about state-owned companies, investing a majority stake of companies operating in the oil patch. Are you saying that isn't impossible under your government?
There's a difference between an investment and a majority investment. First of all, I will point out that a Chinese company is a minority investor in LNG Canada 1. And it's done in an appropriate way, and it's a net benefit to Canada. We'll look at each particular situation and decide whether it's a net benefit for Canada. That's why we have the Investment Canada Act.
But the rules,
Net benefit to Carney and Xi Jinping. I don't like what they're doing here.
I take your point on the difference. The rules as established after CNOC and Nexon were about a majority stake. And there was a very distinct red line drawn. Am I to interpret from what you're saying that you'll instead evaluate things on a case-by-case basis, despite the way that the Prime Minister characterized China just 7 months ago?
We will look at every investment from every country against the Investment Canada Act, and we will accept investments that are a net benefit to Canada.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on.
Vassy did ask some good questions there. She needs to have a little bit more courage and just ask straight up, are you guys going to approve a pipeline? Or are you going to get rid of those bad laws? Just say it straight.